Hello, Spencer. How are you today?
I am fantastic, Phoebe. How are you?
Great. I'm honored to have you in our podcast. Hello, viewers. Welcome to Talk to Phoebe podcast, where we explore leadership, innovation, AI, and the people transforming the future of work. I'm your host, Phoebe. Today, I'm honored to welcome Spencer Horn. Spencer is a certified speaking professional, president of Altium Leadership, president of Team Coaching International, and one of the world leading experts on leadership and team performance. Over the past 34 years, Spencer has served as a VP for a NASDAQ company, CEO of a global leadership development organization, and a keynote speaker to thousands of audience across 4 countries. He worked with organizations ranging from the world number one airline to National Geographic and National Park Service, helping leaders build accountability, alignment, communication, and lasting behavior change. Spencer, you're welcome to our podcast.
Thank you so much, Phoebe. Very glad to be here.
Yeah. Okay, so let's dive in. So before we dive in into the podcast, I want to set the structure. The podcast is going to go into 3 parts. First of all, we look at your background and industry trend you're seeing. We look at your current challenges and where you want all these your 3 companies to be in the next 1 year. And if there's any room to explore alternate or other things, we dive into that. So, but for now, it's all about going to be on 3 parts. We're going to have the privilege to know how you built the great company you have today. And your achievement. Of course, somebody like me I'm already a sponge waiting to grow, soak up information. And I'm sure most of our audience are eager to hear how you got where you are today.
Well, that's I'm kind of old, so it's taken me a long time to get here.
All right.
And a lot of life, I think, is serendipity. I went to school initially to study business at the University of Utah and then BYU. And then I got interested in political science. I wanted to work for the State Department. And just the way things went with having family and children, I ended up focusing on economics, and I earned a master's in economics. And after school, I met some people in school. I was offered a job for a publicly traded company
Mhm.
that developed IMAX theaters in tourist destinations. So these big theaters, but they were more of the entertainment side. And 30 years ago, IMAX didn't have anything to do with Hollywood.
Yeah.
And the company that I worked with was part of the influence of bringing Hollywood films to IMAX theaters. And I became the vice president of that company at 27 years old. I was young. I had some great mentorship. There was a great leader that I got to work with, Kelvin Cullimore. I talk about him in my speeches a lot. He was just such a great leader. We were working on a public offering to build our second theater in the Virgin Islands in the Caribbean. And a hurricane hit. This was back in 1996, 97. And so the public offering failed, and it was kind of a disaster for the company. It wasn't anything that we could control.
Yeah.
Sometimes geopolitics and weather and all kinds of things can impact your business plans. And so I ended up leaving and working for many different companies, eventually started my own companies, and was introduced later in life to a company that was a leadership training and development company. That was in 2008. And I became the CEO of that company after 5 years. And that's something that really resonated with me, Phoebe. I love the leadership development. I love the coaching, and so that's where I really started my speaking career as a way to generate business. You talk about how do you grow your business. Becoming a professional speaker is a great way to create pull. If you stand on a stage and you can create credibility, you can create pull marketing. And so that's why I started speaking initially. And after about 7.5 years, I just went out and started my own company,
Mhm.
which is now Altium Leadership. And as part of that process, I became certified in a coaching methodology called Team Coaching International was the company that certified me. And I loved this coaching certification, and I really have been focusing on team development, leadership development for the last almost 20 years. I've been in leadership roles, and now I'm coaching leaders. I'm coaching leadership teams on how to be high performing, and it is just such satisfactory work and something that I absolutely love and enjoy and am challenged by every day, because there's so many wonderful organizations with leaders that want to grow themselves, and
Yeah.
sometimes they just don't know how to do it, Phoebe. And so luckily I have a way to help them.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, let me ask you a question before we continue. Spencer, you spent over 3 decades leading organization and coaching executives around the world. What first sparked your passion for leadership?
Well, as I was telling you in my earlier story, I think one of the biggest things that sparked my interest was an incredible mentor.
Yeah.
Having somebody that can lead you in a leadership role and challenge you is I think something that can be life changing. We all, I think, deserve the opportunity to work with a great leader that inspires us. And I had that, and I loved what I learned, and it was very uncomfortable because I was challenged. I mean, working for a great leader is not all, it's not always easy. But I believe, Phoebe, that most people want to be challenged. They want to grow. That's one of the reasons why you do this podcast, is you want to
Yes.
learn, right?
Yes.
And gain experience from other people. We
Yes.
need that. That growing gives us a feeling of life and energy.
Yeah.
And if we don't have that, we feel stagnant. So when a leader gives you the opportunity to grow and develop, it's a great gift.
Yes.
And I wanted to be able to give that gift to others.
Thank you very much. So you've spoken to audience across 4 continents. Is there any one leadership challenge that seems universal, regardless of culture or industry?
Yeah. Well, the data is very, very clear. Less than 10% of teams around the world are high performing.
Yeah.
So I think Harvard Business Review did a study in 2024 that said 8.9% of companies only are high performing. Qualtrics, which is the kind of the data recording company, found that only 4.7% of their clients, in 20 years of research at Team Coaching International, only 10% of teams are high performing. And what's interesting, a lot of the behaviors that come up again and again of preventing teams from being high performing are a few things. Alignment, really having team agreements where you actually work together as a team. A lot of times you have this leader that's trying to drive the vision and the rest of the team is not aligned to it. Effective communication, the ability to disagree and to bring in different ideas in a way that is productive and not creating destructive conflict. Most organizations don't know how to do conflict very well. So how do you create this alignment? How do you improve communication throughout the
Those are
entire
my next
organization?
questions.
Yeah. Those are your questions, yeah?
Those questions coming up. Okay, all right. After your keynote, organizations often ask, can you come back next year? Why do you think your message resonates so deeply?
Why does my message resonate?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I think one of the things that I do in my keynotes, Phoebe,
Yeah.
is I talk a lot about failure.
Yeah.
My own failure. And the stories that I tell in such a way that people can put themselves or experience what I'm talking about in their own lives. I think it's wonderful if you can have somebody that has climbed to the top of Mount Everest backwards, blind, and on one foot.
Yeah.
I'm being facetious, of course, right? We have a lot of motivational speakers that have played, sports or have had, terrible things happen to them, and then they speak. But most people don't relate with that.
Yeah.
I'm just a regular individual that has had all kinds of challenges in business, like most business leaders.
Yeah.
90% of those businesses out there struggle. And so when I tell the stories, many people can relate to those stories. That's number one. Number two, when I give a keynote, I make it highly interactive. So not only is it about them, involve them in the process for them to become more self-aware as to their leadership style and their communication style. So people come away from a keynote feeling they've learned something and not just been inspired for a short time.
You often say that high-performing teams aren't built by accident. What separates a good team from those truly exceptional ones?
Yeah, it is. It has to be done intentionally. You cannot create a great team by just having a great vision and idea. You've got to involve people in that. Here's what I mean by that. If you are a founder and you have this great concept or great idea, what is it that gets people to give their discretionary energy and effort to help you with that vision? Somehow they've got to become a part of that vision. Somehow they have to contribute to that vision. So not only do you want to challenge them to learn and grow, but you want to also glean ideas from them. So if there's only the one person in the organization that ever has ideas, it's hard. Now, I mean, you have somebody like Elon Musk that has great ideas, but I guarantee you it's not just him. He's got people around him that are contributing solutions. And when you have the opportunity to contribute a solution, well, then there's this sense of value, of self-worth, of confidence, and you need to be able to systematically, what do you call it, engage that within people. And when you're leading a system, what I mean, you talk about an organization. Within organizations are systems or teams. You've got to address the dynamic of the system and not just work with individuals. So often, we're training and developing people on our team to help them grow, and then they go back to the system, and the system kind of pulls them back to the bad behavior that they were doing before. So as a leader, you've got to be very conscientious about how you design the system and how do you grow it and maintain it and develop it. And that takes a focus that I don't think many leaders really are aware of.
Yeah, awesome. So can a team of highly talented individuals actually become dysfunctional?
That's right. I mean, oftentimes, we think, well, we want the best leaders. I'll tell you a story. I played basketball throughout my years. I'm pretty tall. I'm 2.02 meters or 6'7" if you're, use the English feet. And so I played basketball quite a bit. And I was living in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. This was after working with, I was working for another theater company, and it was exciting. But I had this community of friends, and we started a basketball team. And we weren't individually that talented, but we played terrifically well as a team. We had fun together, we worked hard together. And I remember one day we were playing out on the beach. We were just playing pickup, and a group of these 5 young kids, they were really cocky, Phoebe. They came out and they wanted to play against us. And we said, sure, we'd love to play you. And so we had this pickup game on the beach, and individually they were so much more talented than we were, but we beat them, and they were so mad. They were yelling at each other. They were putting each other down, and here we were laughing. We were having a good time, and they were so unhappy. All these individual talents alone, when they played with their individual talents, they couldn't succeed. Wow. But us, with average talent, when we work together, we're able to do so much more. That is not only a metaphor, that is true in organizational settings, in sports teams. I mean, you've seen maybe the movie Moneyball. It's that same idea as how do you get great people to play together. When you do, wonderful things happen.
Yeah, awesome. I agree with you. I think that has answered my next question. What is the biggest obstacle preventing teams from reaching their full potentials?
There's a lot of obstacles for people achieving their true potential. One is, sometimes the leader thinks it's not necessary. They think that they have all the answers, and so sometimes it's a sense of pride. You've got to be teachable and be willing to continually look to grow. You never arrive. You're always You're always developing, you're always growing. The process is, there's a great article by Ralph Stayer, who was a former CEO of a company called Johnsonville Sausages, and he wrote it in 1990, and it's a Harvard Business Review article called How I Learned to Let My Workers Lead. And he tracked his efforts of becoming a greater leader over 10 years. And he realized there is never an end line. You never arrive at great leadership or great team performance. It's constantly having to be addressed. It never ends.
Yeah.
So if you're not willing, if you're saying, hey, we're good enough, if you're not willing to continually work to grow, to develop, to get the team aligned, and it's a constant process, then you're gonna end towards entropy. In other words, the team will slowly devolve if you don't continually address the needs of the team and grow it consciously.
Awesome, yes. So why do so many organizations optimize individual performance instead of a collective performance?
It's easier. I think that that's what we usually know how to do. Lots of executive coaches, for example, that's what they know. They work with an individual to help that individual. Working with a team is, if you're a leader or a coach, you have to be aware of 10 to 15 different conversations, 10 to all the different dynamics that are happening in the team. So coaching a system is very different than coaching an individual, and it's a skill that they've never learned, or they're even aware that it exists. And I know that because I was a CEO, I was a vice president of a publicly traded company, and I never really thought of the system. I didn't measure the system. Instead, I measured individual performance. We looked at KPIs, right? We looked at absolutely financial statements, but we didn't measure the system in terms of our ability to produce and the culture on the team. We didn't measure that regularly. And I think that's why.
Yeah, okay, awesome. So let's go to the next segment. Many leaders struggle to create accountability without creating fear. What's the difference between accountability and micromanagement?
So I have been doing a lot of coaching, Phoebe, and this is the skill that I spend more time working on with leaders than anything else. How do you create accountability? And the answer is you have to stop doing things for your people. You have to stop solving their problems. You have to stop answering their questions. Now, I'm not saying you never answer their questions. That's not what I'm saying. But so often we create an environment where our people are dependent on us for all the directions, for all the answers. And as a result, their skills atrophy. Their ability to solve problems become dependent on the leader.
Yeah.
So accountability is so much more than just, did you do the job? It is creating ownership throughout the organization where people say, I have got this. This is my responsibility. Not saying, hey, Phoebe, this is your responsibility, and I'm going to watch you. There's this, I have to contribute. If I don't do this, I will let people down. And when they don't follow through, you, as the leader, you've got to approach it in a way that you allow the individual to solve the problem themselves. And that's the skill that most leaders don't have. And it's the skill set is simple, but putting into practice is very difficult, because I'll tell you why. Most leaders are so focused on efficiency, Phoebe, that they are not being effective. And what do I mean by that? I need you to do X, Y, and Z. And then they're so busy doing something else, they don't follow up. They don't have a return and report. When somebody falls short, they just jump in and do it. They're frustrated that somebody doesn't do it the way they wanted to do it. And so they take away initiative from their team and they don't even know it. And these behaviors are going on every single day. You are taking initiative away from your people when you step in and solve their issues and solve their problems. And that is destroying accountability in organizations. And it starts at the top. And the leaders have no idea of how they are creating a lack of accountability. And so they start to yell, I need you, do this or do that. And they lead with fear. That is absolutely the wrong approach to take. You lead with coaching and you help your people solve their own problem. Very, very few people know how to do that.
Awesome. So how can leaders create an environment where people feel psychologically safe while still maintaining high standards?
Well, this coaching methodology for accountability is one of those ways. And that is that when somebody struggles, you have a conversation about what's going on and then allow them to correct it. And you can put pressure on. I remember I had a great mentor and leader. He had very, very high standards. Yet I felt very comfortable bringing up ideas and challenging suppositions. So you've got to create an environment where people have the ability to contribute, to speak up,
Yeah.
to weigh in, and not create an echo chamber where everybody. I've seen organizations where they just wanted to do what the boss said. There was fear, there was no initiative. But when you create an environment where people feel valued because of their ideas, then they're going to speak up. They're going to give you their best. They're going to give you their best. And so you as a leader, it's so counterintuitive sometimes to slow down, to go fast, to create a safe environment for people to speak up. Sometimes that takes a little longer. That's the slowing down. But in the long run, you'll make fewer mistakes.
Yes.
You'll be more efficient and more productive. So sometimes you have to do the thing that seems a little counterintuitive, not just driving, not just pushing. Sometimes slowing down and checking yourself is the right way to go.
It's true, I agree. So what behavior creates lasting accountability across organization?
Well, the one behavior that creates lasting accountability is anytime someone does what you want them to do, you reward that. It doesn't mean you're necessarily paying them more, but you recognize it. You learn to tell the stories in the organizations. Hey, Phoebe, look what Phoebe was able to accomplish. You tell that story of people so what gets rewarded gets repeated. And so and there's lots of different ways to reward good behavior. Tell the story of success wherever you are. And people want to be, now, not everybody on this call listening loves public recognition.
Yeah.
There's some people that are very private, very shy. There's ways to recognize people in ways that they appreciate, but do it the way that the individual appreciates best, and you reward them, and they will repeat those behaviors.
Okay.
If you allow bad behavior to continue without addressing it, that behavior is rewarded and will continue.
Okay, awesome. Let's the next segment. One of your client engagement led to 50% increase in revenue while dramatically improving communication and alignment. What
Yes.
actually changed inside that organization?
What changed is a couple of things. You have to have a couple of assumptions when you're working with a team. Number one, the first assumption is that the team has the ability to excel. So often we think, oh, this is a broken team. We're not performing the way we need to. We were dysfunctional, right? And so the first thought is, I need to replace everybody. Slow down.
Yeah.
Every team has the ability to be high performing, okay? The individuals on the team, we assume, want to be on a high performing team. Phoebe, how about you? Would you prefer to be on a high performing team than on a low performing team?
Yeah, I want to be on a high performing team, of course.
Right, most people do. So we make that assumption, and we also assume that that people are teachable and that they have the ability to learn, to grow, and to change. And so these are some of the things that will help us to be willing to address. So in the case of this team, they engaged me to do what we call a team diagnostic.
Okay.
And this executive team of 5 individuals was really struggling to do the work that they needed to do. Very high pressure work environment in the affiliate marketing and really cutting edge marketing field. And we spent a day and a half together, Phoebe, and we took their data of how their team is doing, and basically I coached the system. All the behaviors that were showing up, I helped them become aware of how they were getting in their own way as a system, not just individuals saying, hey, Phoebe, you do this. Instead, this is a system right now that this is happening on. This is a system that allows this to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you want? No. Okay, well then what's getting in the way of it? So we're able to identify the blocks, the things that are preventing the leaders from performing at their absolute best. And that's the start. We spend a day and a half and they become very self-aware. You cannot change behavior without self-awareness. So not only the individual behavior, but the system's behavior. So once they're aware of how they're behaving as a system, then they were very easily able to shift it. They created operating agreements with themselves. They made commitments about how they were going to behave. And then we did ongoing coaching to make sure that those behaviors went forward. And after 7 months, they had huge improvements in how they communicated with each other, the psychological safety that you talked about, the trust they had about each other, the engagement, the ability to disagree, the decision making, all those things, accountability, all went up.
Yeah.
In great proportions. And so it takes pressure. You can't just do it in a one meeting training. It took 7 months of working together.
Awesome. So how closely connected are team health and financial performance?
The late Harvard psychologist David McClellan said that 1/3 of all financial results come from team climate. That's based on his research and data. Now, so the culture on the team accounts for 1/3 of the bottom line. These are not just soft skills that we are nice to have. They are have to have. They are the difference between being profitable or failing. So very, very important. Hope that answers your question.
Absolutely. So what metrics should CEO monitor besides revenue?
What metrics should you? Well, when we come into an organization, we look at two. The model that we use looks at two areas: productivity, and I'm not just talking about financial. I'm talking there's 7 elements of productivity that we're looking at. For example, decision making, resource allocation, accountability, all of those types of things, and we measure those 7 elements. And then on the culture side, trust, communication, camaraderie, 7 elements of those things as well. So productivity and positivity are the 2 main areas, and then we drill down very deep into each of the areas and where they have the biggest issues. So you may have these 14 elements, and some of them they're succeeding very well at.
Yeah.
We want to focus on those areas that the system struggles with the most. In some cases, it's having conflict or accountability and effective communication. So that allows us to be very targeted in our effort. But we measure it, and we can then focus our efforts on the areas that we struggle with based on those measurements.
Awesome. That's very great. So what's one misconception executives have about investing in team coaching?
One misconception. I think there's a lot of misconceptions. There's a difference between a team building activity and team coaching. A team building activity can be very engaging. It can bring a team together, and it's camaraderie, but it's an event. Okay? Team coaching is meant to really happen over time and create a lot of self-awareness. It's certainly an engaging process, but it's meant to create the conditions on the team for them to begin to solve their own problems. So, rather than just having everybody excited to work with each other, we're actually giving them the skills and the tools to begin to be self-sufficient as a team. So the idea is that it's not just an expense. It is giving your team the tools they need to go where you need them to go. I think that's one misconception. The other misconception is that it's expensive to work on the team. I can't take them away from the line or whatever. It's a lot more expensive to have the team working well below its potential. And that's what 90% of teams do, is they are working below their potential. Just like this case that you showed where they increased their revenue 50%. What was it costing them to not do that year in and year out before that?
Nothing.
Well, it was costing them that 50% that they now are earning more because of their working together better. Right. So
okay, that's great. So let's get to the next segment. We're in the middle of a major shift with AI. How do you see leadership evolving in this new era?
Well, one of the challenges that it has for coaching is that individual coaches are struggling more because a lot of executives are turning to AI as their coach. So they're relying on AI to coach them where they would hire a coach before. Now, the good thing for team coaching is that there is no AI solution for team coaching. You need an actual coach.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of leaders are looking to AI to increase productivity because it does increase individual productivity by about 67%. But a lot of organizations are really struggling to make AI transformational in their organization. So right now, there's a lot of energy and effort being put into how to use it and apply it the right way, finding the right balance between what people do and what machines do. I think is really important, and we are doing that too. I mean, AI is part of what I do every single day. And as far as I can tell, AI is not going to replace people altogether. It will certainly, and I've been talking about this for 10 years, not necessarily AI, but technology replacing,
Yeah.
repeatable tasks. And it has done exactly that, but we're going to see a correction because you cannot. What happens if we replace all the workforce? There's nobody to buy the goods and services we provide.
Yeah.
So that can't happen.
Yeah.
But not only that, AI just can't right now do some of the things that humans can still do.
Yeah.
So what this means for leadership is those leaders who have built their leadership on data management, on strategy, on systems and process. Those things are important, but they are less important today because the data and information can be very easily gathered. What is harder and what is more in demand are how do you keep people engaged? How do you keep them motivated and encouraged? And here's why. As AI starts to do more and more of the work, what does that do to individual worker engagement and satisfaction? Potentially, it takes away their ability to be challenged, to learn, to grow, right? Right now,
Yeah.
we're learning how AI works, and so there's a challenge there. But what happens eventually when AI starts doing more of the work, and so we're not being challenged. We're not excited about our work. We're becoming disengaged.
Yeah.
So we need to make sure as leaders that we're finding ways to keep our people feeling productive. They need to have meaning in their life. And if they're just showing up doing menial work and watching a machine do all the work, then we're going to lose people. So leadership must figure out how to keep their people engaged
Yeah.
and motivated and growing.
Awesome. So, can AI actually improve team performance, or will it simply expose existing weakness faster?
That's a great question. Can AI improve team performance? I think so, in the sense that we can use it again to measure and to see where gaps are. So in the measurement side, yes, but not in the operational or the development or the how do we get people to work together side better, right? I mean, I think that's a great question. So I think it's mixed.
Okay, awesome. So let's see again. How can organization balance technology adoption with maintaining real human connection?
Yeah, that's going to be the key, is that you just have to make it a priority.
Yeah.
In other words, as you are implementing more technology, you actually have to, let me back up for a moment. Think about what happened during 2020 when so many of us went to working remotely,
Yeah.
right? And we had to actually work with teams like this through technology, right? Through Zoom meetings or Microsoft Team meetings or all the different technology that we had. What we found is that each person needed greater contact with their leader than before. They needed to spend more time engaging their people because they didn't have that human touch. It needed to become a priority. So you've got to make that human connection a priority. We live in a society right now where there is more suicide and more disengagement than ever before. There was a study that just came out in April where manager satisfaction dropped from
Wow.
31% to 22 from 2021 to 2025. This is the Gallup data that just came out in April. Why? Because managers are overwhelmed with AI implementation. They're doing more with less. Organizations are being flatter. There's more demands on their time. And so what's happening is that people are being overwhelmed with the rate of change, with the speed of change, and we need to make sure that we're taking time to prioritize connection and relationships in order to maintain our ability to continue to work as teams.
Let's come down to your practice, your ultimate consulting. So, what is working well for you right now, and what's been frustrating? Ultimately,
What is working for me right now?
yeah, what is working well, and what has been frustrating?
So right now, I am also taking on a new role as president of Team Coaching International. And what's working well is that we have some great clients, and they're receiving great results. We get lots of. We work with Fortune 100 clients, Fortune 500 clients. We have coaches in 45 countries around the world. We've had over 4,000 deployments of our diagnostic. We've had over 1,000 teams go through a team coaching process. That's working. The challenge that we have right now is there's so much noise, there's so much AI doing lead generation right now that figuring out how to do that the right way and finding a way to connect with our prospects, that's the thing that we're really working on, and we're partnering with some people that are really smart about how we do that in the right way. Getting through the noise right now is hard. I don't know about you, but I get so many bot emails and spam messages day in and day out because everybody's adopting lead generation through AI. And I think people are kind of reacting negatively to that, and so we have to figure out how to find our client in a way that they can hear and accept. That's the challenge that we have.
Okay, go. So, listen. Okay, what is there any metrics you're focusing on improving on your lead generation?
Yeah. Right now, we're focused on top line, just interest, having people come into our educational webinars that we provide, and so we're looking at attendance. That for us is the important thing. Is how do we get people to start coming back to our, we've taken a break, so we're really looking at how do we fill the top of the pipeline, and that's the numbers that we're most focused on right now. Is filling the pipeline at the top is priority number one. So enrollments in our webinars, our informational seminars, that's what we're looking at.
Yeah, still filling the pipeline still boils down to lead generation. Anyway,
That is absolutely correct. Yes.
yeah. Okay. So the next question is, where do you want the company to be in the next 1 year?
In the next 1 year, my goodness. So we have so many big plans. We've got certifications that are happening regularly. We're doing one in Amsterdam live in September. We have our coaching partners in Europe and China. I think that where I would love to be is I'd love to have, we've got 2 partners in Europe. I want to see some more perhaps in maybe Korea, South America, where we have partner organizations that are really pushing the team coaching process. I think if we had 2 more partners, that would be a great milestone.
I believe you. What do you mean, like a franchise? In those
Exactly. Yes.
work.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. That's
Yeah.
very good. So, if you have a magic wand to fix just one thing that slow you down, or hold you back, what would that be?
To me, it would be the magic wand would be the people attending our our webinars. It's the lead generation. That there would be a constant flow of high quality people that are interested in team coaching. And there are lots of them out there, and we just need to find them.
Yeah, I agree with you. There are a lot of them out there. Just need to find them. The next question we're going to talk about now is leadership and influence. What separates a great speaker from someone who actually changed behavior?
That is a great question. So many people want to be a speaker.
Yeah.
I talk to people all the time that want to go out and be a public speaker. And the challenge that many of them have is they have this experience that they've had that they think is transformational. It's transformational to them.
Yeah.
But nobody cares about that.
Yeah.
What people care. I just got a text today from a speaker, and he's like, my message is not resonating because instead of telling people what you do, what is the problem that you solve? You must tell a story in a way that people see themselves in it. You're not just going and say, hey, I had this traumatic experience and here's what I learned. No, you've got to learn how to tell stories in such a way that people see themselves in your story, that people can relate to that, and it's told in an emotional way where they connect a concept to an idea in their heart that inspires them to take action. A keynote is not going to create a huge change, but if it gets somebody to take action, then change can happen. And so the problem is nobody cares about your story. They care about how can you solve their problem. And if you can solve a problem, then you will be successful as a speaker. And you can do it in an entertaining and powerful and emotional way, even better yet. And that takes a lot of practice.
Awesome.
Yes.
Yeah. So what advice will you give someone who wants to become a stronger leader but doesn't have a formal leadership title?
You want to become a stronger leader? There's so many ways to do that. To join a peer advisory group where you work with other people in your same position that you can advise each other, hire a coach, make sure you have a mentor, somebody that is telling you when have somebody that you can go to. It's lonely at the top.
Yes.
I mean, so many leaders don't have anybody they can go to and say, how'd I do? And where did I go wrong? And they need someone that they can confide in that's not their team, that they can get honest feedback from, that challenges them and encourages them to learn and grow. So you've got to be willing to learn and grow. You've got to be teachable, and then hire a coach, join a peer advisory group. Yeah, that's the first way that you can do it.
Great. Okay, so when you stand in front of thousands of people, what message do you hope they take home?
When I stand in front of people, I have lots of messages, but my main message right now is this. Too often, we hear this message, just focus on your strengths, right? Just be true to who you are, right? Be authentic. Well, that's hurting a lot of people, because if you just focus on your strengths, well, what if your strengths are that you're a jerk?
Yeah.
Right? There's a lot of hard driving, or there's also people that are very conflict avoidant, and so like, well, this is just who I am. I don't rock the boat. I believe that we need to be looking more at our blind spots and what I call drag. Think of high performance racing, right? F1, Formula One, these cars, they're 1,000 to 1,100 horsepower. These cars are so powerful, yet they spend millions of dollars reducing drag, reducing friction. You can't just have a strength or your engine without paying attention to what's slowing you down. Now, the problem is that we love focusing on our strengths because it makes us, feel good. But overcoming our weaknesses, our drag points, takes a little more energy. So we have to be very focused and only work on one at a time. But here's the good news: when you do difficult things, your brain rewards you. It's a very, very empowering process to work on our blind spots. But that's my message. Stop just saying this is who I am and making excuses for bad behavior, and learn to do what I call flexible authenticity. So if you're avoiding conflict, learn how to be more assertive, not aggressive. Learn how to speak up and be right. If you're already aggressive, learn how to tone that back and let go of control. Well, that's not my authentic self. Well, continue to fail then as a leader. You've got to work on those drag points or you will suffer. Your teams will suffer.
Great. So, Spencer, after working with organizations across industry and around the world, what do you believe is the biggest untapped opportunity inside most companies today?
What is the biggest untapped resource inside? It's always the people. It's always the people. How do you get them engaged? How do you get them solving problems? How do you get them to take more ownership? That is the work of leadership, is to inspire, to breathe life into, to encourage, to open up, to empower the capabilities, the desires, the efforts of their team. That is always going to be, in my opinion, the answer. Right now, our teams are underutilized. Only 10% are high performing. That means 90% of them out there are not achieving according to their potential.
Yeah.
Well, that's a people problem. It's not a strategic problem. It's not a finance problem. It is a people problem.
Awesome. Okay, if you could give one piece of advice to leaders trying to build stronger team, what would it be?
The advice to build a stronger team is for the leader to be aware of their impact. Right now, a lot of times the leader they think just because they have good intentions that's enough. It's not enough to have good intentions. You must be self-aware. You must be aware of how you're showing up, how you are connecting with your people, where you're creating dissonance, where you're creating disengagement. And that requires self-awareness, and that is hard. We struggle with self-awareness. We're so busy. We're so focused on productivity that, again, that's slowing down and taking a look in the mirror.
Yeah.
That's an uncomfortable and a time-consuming process.
Okay, awesome. So when people leave one of your keynotes, one of your coaching session, or simply think back on what's working with you years from now, what do you hope they remember most about the way you help them lead and work together?
I hope they remember that that I challenged them in a way that invited them and made them want to change. And no shaming, no cajoling, no forcing.
Yeah.
But I encourage them to see things differently of their own will. That's what I hope they remember.
Yeah. Spencer, thank you very much for joining us today and sharing your incredible insight on leadership, accountability, communication, and the power of high-performing team. One of my biggest takeaway from this conversation is that success isn't built on individual brilliance. It's built on alignment, it's built on trust, and it's built on leaders who create an environment where people can do their very best, work together. As AI continues to transform workplace, mission that master the human edge of performance may have the greatest competitive advantage of all. So thank you very much, Spencer. And to everyone listening to our podcast, we say thank you for joining us. And if you enjoyed this conversation, please subscribe to our channel. And again, I'm going to leave Spencer's information in our description box, his website, his speaker profile, and of course his podcast address and all that. So feel free to get across to Spencer if you need his services. Spencer, thank you very much.
Thank you, Phoebe. Great to be with you.